that happened in Berkeley, San Francisco, and the deities are also getting painted here. So we have the special darshan of the Utsav Vigrahas right here. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Shriman Mahaprabhu Shri Shri Lakshmi Narasimha Dev Ki Jai. So before we begin today's topic, I seek all of your blessings. I am trying to speak for the pleasure of all the devotees and the deities, and I did some preparation, and I hope that all of you will be pleased. So today's topic is from faith in logic to faith beyond logic. And before we begin, we will do a small kirtan. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुना तीरवनचारी यमुना तीरवनचारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Narahari, Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Narahari, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Shriman Mahaprabhu Shri Shri Lakshmi Narasimhadev Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Caitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahavanaragvanathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahavanaragvanathanvitam Tam Sajivam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Name Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namah. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Jagattaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining for today's Sunday feast. It's already 3:50. So today's topic is on from faith in logic to faith beyond logic. I thought it would be an interesting topic because all of us know the importance of rationality, especially being in the Silicon Valley heartland. So we are well aware of the nuances as well as the implications of logical thinking, rationality, and so on. At the same time, we also know that we all have a certain faith, we share a certain faith. We have faith in humanity, we have faith in compassion, we have faith in values, morals, ethics. So how do these two both go exactly together, and what does it mean to have faith, and where do we actually have, or what do we have faith in, and what is its relation to logic? By its I mean the object of faith. So we will be delving into some of those. So first we will be looking at the subject, object, and the nature of faith. So I'm going to use both English as well as Sanskrit terms because we'll be looking into it from the Vedic theology, especially Gaudiya Siddhanta, Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta point of view as well as we'll also look at the modern scientific approach, which is celebrated as the success story of rationality, so to speak. And then we will also look at more closely into what is the object of faith, or what do we repose faith in. So in that context, we'll explore truth or tattva as the ideal object of faith. And how do we know what is the truth? And that subject is dealt with in modern parlance as epistemology, and in the Nyaya school or in the Vedic tradition as the Pramana, or the source of truth or proof, to be more specific. And faith in logic. So that is the beginning point of our journey to some extent. We all have some faith in logic. We believe that because because the people who, for example, let's say if you're joining a grad school, so you know that the people who are senior to you joined there, they went through the journey and they got their degrees, and after that they had careers, or having careers. So that gives you faith that okay, if I go through this process, then I will also achieve the desired result. So that much some faith we have in logic. And then we'll also be looking at what does logic really mean in the sense of the philosophical approach to truth. When we say logic, we may mean many things, but we are going to little bit be more specific about what logic is, in the sense it is the study of arguments, or more precisely the study of what constitutes valid argumentation or valid arguments. I will not bore too much, but I will go into the main principles so that we get a hang of what logic is, and what are its dependencies and the premises and so on. And we'll also see the other types of proofs on which logic itself depends, such as pratyaksha or empirical observations, experience, as well as shabda or scripture. So all these different premises we will look into in some detail and see what is their relation to logic. And then toward the end we will explore unconditional faith, or faith beyond logic, which we all can relate to in some sense when we deal with humans that we trust. And beyond a point we stop asking for proof, and we'll look at it, what happens when that object of faith is infallible or the absolute truth. Then it's called prema, which is a specific stage of bhakti, considered its highest stage. So when we talk about faith, there are three things that come to mind. The possessor of faith, so one who possesses the faith, the nature of faith, and the object of faith. So just remember this diagram, that there is somebody who is possessing faith in something. So this is more or less logical relationship that we can draw between the subject, nature, and the object of faith. Here, now if we go a little bit into the etymology, so in English the word faith comes from the root fidere, which means to trust. So the synonyms are trust, faith, confidence, reliance, credence, belief, and so on. Whereas in Sanskrit, the closest words are Vishwasa and Shraddha. So Sanskrit is so in Sanskrit the speciality is you can derive the meaning of many of the words, if not all, through the etymology itself. So the word can show its own meaning in the sense. So Vishwasa, Shwasa many of us may know as breath or air. Vishwasa is the secret movement or the secret communication, or it can be understood as confidentiality. V stands for Vishesha, or special, secretive, mystical, those kind of, it's a prefix. And so the meaning comes close to having confidence in something. So confidence in that sense. So here we see there is no specific object of Vishwasa that is being talked about. Meaning, I can put faith in anything, in my imagination, in something else that may have nothing to do with reality whatsoever. So that sense, Vishwasa can be used to put faith in a more or less blind sense, you can say. And Shraddha, on the other hand, is a very specific term that can be split as Shraddh plus Dha. Shraddha. So Shraddh is actually the Vedic usage of the word Sat, or reality. So truth is a little bit of truth is more like Satya, and reality is Sat. So the part of reality that we can grasp is Satya, the truth, what we consider as the truth. But reality is unlimited. So, and then the part of reality that we can grasp is the truth, Satya. And Dha is to hold or to possess. So we saw that we possess faith. So that possessing part is coming from Dha. So Shraddha becomes to possess the truth. That is the sense in which the word Shraddha is used. So Shraddha has a very specific object which is rooted in reality, which is the object of Shraddha is truth, in a sense. So faith is always reposed in something, and then the faith is never optional. Why? Because faith is so fundamental to our existence as consciousness is. So when we say, for example, the immediate question that comes to mind is, what about agnostics? They say that, I don't believe in anything. But the very fact that they may believe that talking about God is out of reach, logically or empirically speaking. So they may hold a certain set of beliefs, and therefore that is also a specific form of faith that they possess. So it is not possible to have no faith. We all have faith and we repose it in something. Now, is that reposition valid, or do we need to position it elsewhere? That's a different question. But faith is never optional. Everyone has faith. Scientists have faith in the scientific method. Philosophers have faith in their approach toward the truth. And, as spiritualists, we have certain faith about our spiritual journey, the process that we follow, and so on. Therefore, faith is not optional, as well as it's very sacred. It's a personal thing. It's a confidential thing to an extent that only we are aware of what is the actual faith that we possess. Now, we will look at, we looked into the nature of faith to some extent previously. Now we look at who is possessing faith and what is this kind of faith, where does it come from. So we'll explore it based on Krishna's teachings from the Bhagavad Gita. So in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga, Krishna talks about how faith is in different modes of nature, or you can say how faith is influenced by the environment around us. So Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Trividha Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sa Svabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Chetam Shruno. So he says that Trividha Bhavati Shraddha. Shraddha is of three types. And this, what kind of Shraddha is being talked about? Dehinam Sa Svabhavaja. The Shraddha that is arising Svabhavaja, from one's own nature. Now, what does it mean that Shraddha is arising from one's own nature? So we'll see that actually when children are born or when they're growing up, and so each of them have different inclinations toward different things. They may naturally be drawn to things That is all based on their inner nature that is coming from the past impressions. So now we will see for this the pramana comes from Srimad Bhagavatam, where Narad Muni is talking to Prachina Varshid, and he says that just like by the activities that we do, by the thoughts that we have, by that we can actually know what is the state of our consciousness. So the activities that we can do, the observable gives us clues about the unobservable. So our externality gives clues about our internal self. Similarly, our internal self serves as the proof for what kind of past life the person had. So this is Narad Muni's statements from the Bhagavatam. And now this Shraddha can be studied based on the gunas, or the here sattva, rajas and tamas. So those who have sattvika shraddha, they are interested in spiritual topics, peace, and these kind of what you can call as sattvika shaktis, or the sattva guna influences. And rajas, those who are having rajasic type of faith, are the ones who believe that anything can be achieved just by hard work. So you work hard and you get it. So this is the faith in kriya shakti, or in rajaguna, that you perform, then you will get the result. And faith in tamas or tamo guna is that whatever is beneficial for the society will appear unbeneficial to that person, and whatever is beneficial for the person is actually unbeneficial to the society. So that's how the person starts having a disposition, develops a disposition. So dharma is seen as adharma by them, adharma is seen as dharma by them. So that leads to chaos and confusion. And where is this faith stored? That Krishna gives the clue in the next verse. He says, Sattvanurupa sarvasya shraddha bhavati bharata shraddha mayoyam purusho yo yat shraddha sayeva sa. Krishna says, Sattva anurupa sarvasya. He says, the faith, shraddha bhavati bharata. So sarvasya, everybody's shraddha is based on their sattva anurupa. Sattva anurupa is according to, you can say. Sattva anurupa. What is this sattva? So this sattva is actually the internal organ which can be understood as the chitta. So there is technicality here. So without going into too much of detail, how you can understand this is, this sattva is referring to the chitta, and there is a praman for this from Bhagavatam. Let me see if I can recollect the verse. Sattvam chasya vinirbhinnam mahandhishnyam upavishat chittenam chena yenaso vijnanam pratipadyate. So this is the verse from Bhagavatam which says that when sattva, the shakti of God, or Krishna's shakti, when it enters into Mahan, or the Mahat Tattva, which is the primordial material nature, then that results in what is chitta. So their sattva can be understood as the collection of the living entities within matter, or the embodied beings, we can say. So this Shraddha is taking shelter of that sattva, or the internal organ of the person. And Shraddha mayam purushaha. So which means the person always has Shraddha maya. There cannot be a person without Shraddha. So there cannot be someone without faith. Faith is never optional. So Krishna is mentioning that here. Yo yat shraddha sayeva saha. He says that this is a very interesting statement he makes. However the person's shraddha is, they themselves are like that. Which means we can take a person's faith as their exact representation. So that is the most representative of oneself, what their faith is. That is what Krishna is saying. So the take-home message from this, what we can say is, Shraddha is possessed by one of the internal organs. We can say, mind is a very general term. So it refers to chitta here. Chitta is one of the impressionable mind, we can say. That is where the Shraddha is present, or Shraddha is stored, we can say. So that way, whatever is inside, that Shraddha is what comes out, and that Shraddha is what we see in this life. So that is how the faith evolves, and the faith is formed by the formative samskaras, or the formative impressions that we have from the past lives. And now we looked at the nature of faith, the subject of faith, meaning what is faith, and then we looked at who is possessing the faith. Now we will look at what is the faith reposed in. In other words, what is the object of faith, or the objective of our faith. So the ideal objective of faith, or the object of faith, is truth. And now then the question comes, what is truth? So truth, the equivalent Sanskrit word, we can say as, depending on the context, it can mean tattva or it can mean satya. So satya is, as I just previously mentioned, it is coming from sat, which means reality or truth. And satya is that part of reality that we can grasp. So that ya pratyaya, or the suffix, is used on sat to give us satya. Or there may be a lot of reality around us, but we may only be focused on a certain part of it. We may be interested only in a certain part of it. So that is the satya for us. But then the sat is, a lot of sat is there. The reality is unlimited in a sense. So a part of it that we are focusing on is the satya for us. And now, what is the nature of the absolute truth? Because there are so many relative truths here. For example, I may be looking at a car outside, and then after 10,000 years, that car won't be there in that same shape. Of course, I won't be there to look. That's another thing. But, you understand that the state of the object of our observation also keeps undergoing change. But absolute truth is not like that. It is not relative or subject to any external factor, including time. So if something is getting decayed in time, that is not absolute truth. That is just a variant or a manifestation of the absolute truth that is subject to time. Just like, if you take any bench, or like a wooden desk or something. So after several years, again, matter energy equivalents, right? Einstein. So after that, everything will transform into different state. So the transformations are what are permanent. So the only constant thing in this world is change. So transformations are permanent, and then these transformations are the manifestations of something underlying. There is something underlying that we are trying to discover, the theory of everything, so to speak. So we are trying to lay our hands onto what is the substratum, or what is the basis of everything that exists. Sarva karana karanam. So what is the karana for everything else that exists? So that is the absolute truth on which everything else is resting. So when we say the external objects, when we observe, they undergo state changes in time. We can study them, we can do calculus. All this is good. But once we see that their forms are all changing, we understand they are all temporary. Temporary means they are not absolutely true. They are relative and subject to time. So if they are subject to time, they can't be absolute. They are relative by definition. So Krishna puts this so beautifully. He says, na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah. So he says that asatah, na asatah vidyate bhavaha. Or you can say asatah bhavaha na vidyate. Or from the false, from what is absolutely false, cannot arise something that is manifest. Or na bhavo vidyate satah. So abhavaha satah abhavaha na vidyate. From the absolute truth, there can't be non-existence, or there can't be non-manifestation in a sense. So one way to understand this is, in simplified terms, truth stems from the absolute truth or reality. So we can understand it that way. So this is the definition of what the absolute truth is, which we are all striving to understand. What is that one thing that never changes? What is that permanently lasting thing that we are all looking for? So everybody likes happiness, right? Is there anybody coming to temple and wishing, no, I want sadness? Oh God, please, I have been too happy. So nobody thinks like that. So we all want happiness and we want it to be lasting. So that lasting part is the Sat or the Sandhini Shakti. We want permanence. And the happiness part is the Ladini Shakti, or we want happiness. And we want it to be true also. We don't want to be happy in illusion. So that truth is the Samvit Shakti, or the knowledge potency, we can say. So all these three Shaktis are working in conjunction in the absolute realm, or in the realm of the absolute truth. That's why you will hear statements like Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So describing Brahman, or God, we will hear statements like these about reality, that it is infinite, it is permanent as well, and it is blissful. So all these statements. Now we understand that we want to repose our faith in something that is true, because none of us want to get cheated, right? Nobody is interested in that. So how can we know that something is indeed the truth? We have given definition, but then how do you know it is indeed the truth? We need evidence, we need proof. And this proof is called Pramana in Sanskrit. And now then the question comes, what do you take for proof, right? So what do we take for proof? What is acceptable as proof? Well, I mean, both historically as well as theologically, there have been studies on what is considered proof. And in modern terms, it is called epistemology. And in the Vedic terms, it is called Nyaya, or Pramana is part of Nyaya as well. How do you know something is true, and what are the ways to know? So now there are three basic types of proof, and this first two you will hear in any science class or philosophy class on what is proof. The third one, Shabda, is more in the Vedic parlance. So three types of proof are Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Shabda. Pratyaksha means whatever is Pratyaksha, that you can actually see, empirical observation. Anumana is rational inference, or our how do we logically derive a conclusion from a certain premise? That is Anumana. Anu is following. Anumana is actually following something else. So we'll see what that something else is. And Shabda is sound, or the realized word. Now this is an interesting exercise here. You can focus on the dot in between, and how does the image appear to you if you just focus on the dot in between? Maybe we can ask Nayana. Do you see the image as static, or is there any movement? You see it as static? When you focus on the middle, do you see it as static or moving? Do you see some movement? Okay. See, actually, this is an optical illusion. Maybe I should have like a larger size of it, But if you focus intently on the center dot, you will see there is some kind of circular movement in the image. Maybe it's not so clear here because of the distance and the size, but if I'm seeing it on my screen, I can see it happen. So okay, so this is one thing. I'm just putting forth some scenarios in front of you to illustrate something about observation or pratyaksha pramana. Now, okay, which color do you see in this dress? You see which color? How many of you see white and gold? Raise your hands. Okay, few of them. What about blue and black? How is this possible, right? I just put an innocent image here, and then some of you are seeing that in blue and I don't know what is the other color, blue and black, and others are seeing in white and yellow. What color do you see, Naina? She sees white and yellow, okay? How is this possible, right? So this actually has to do something with how there is relativity in perception in the eyes. We have rods and cones to interpret the colors and images in the eyes. And this is a phenomenon that had gone viral since that time that it came, and this is known as the dress. So if you just wiki for the dress, you will see this is. And the point of illustrating this, you may think like, why is this person talking about optical illusions and dresses in a temple? The point here is pratyaksha pramana is both relative as well as imperfect. So which means seeing is not necessarily believing. So to those who think seeing is believing, here are the counter examples. Now there is relativity in it, as well as there are so many other optical illusions, for example mirage. So you will think, if somebody never told you that actually it's just a mirage, you will think that okay, there is water in there, but then you keep going and then you see that you never arrive. Okay, maybe something is wrong. And so all these are evidence to not completely believe that seeing is revealing the truth. Seeing does reveal information, but whether that is true or not, whether it's absolutely true or not, is something that has to be questioned. Now, this is the limitation of pratyaksha pramana, one of the things that we accept as proof. The second is little more involved. So if you don't have a scientific background, it's okay. And if you do, then you can try to follow along. So modern science, whether it be inventions of the modern gadgets, or whether it be the inventions or discoveries about the fundamental truths of nature, all of them stem from you can say observation and inference. So pratyaksha and anumana, the way science infers from data is called the scientific method. It has to do both with inductive and deductive reasoning, as well as statistical testing. So there are to those who are familiar with the scientific method, there is a null hypothesis, which is the de facto belief, and then you collect data based on the experiment that you perform, and then the data can be seen as whether or not it falsifies the null hypothesis. If it does, then you go with the alternative hypothesis, and then you accept the alternative as what the evidence shows, and therefore you have more credibility toward believing something that is not the null hypothesis or the de facto belief. So this is how science tries to gather more evidence and then refine the theories that are existing, and then keep proceeding, hoping that one day there will be a steady state and a theory of everything. But unfortunately, that is not going to be the case, because there is proof that there cannot be an axiomatic system that is consistent and complete at the same time. It's called Gödel's incompleteness theorems. There are two theorems, and there is an undefinability theorem, which is kind of a, you can say, corollary or an extension of Gödel's theorem. So what it basically says is, to give some background, whenever we do any rational inference, whenever we infer logically, we always start with a premise. And the premise that is given, we can use the one in Nyaya, for example. So there is a fire, wherever there is smoke, there is fire. This is called the Vyapti, or the general observation based on everyone's experience, let's say. This is the collective belief that we all hold. And then there is a specific instance. There is smoke on the top of the hill. So now, this is a premise. So you have, based on the past experiences, you have an understanding of nature. You can say that's your background belief. And then you have the observation, the empirical observation that there is smoke on top of the hill. Then what follows by deductive reasoning, what we call as logic, so to speak, is that there is fire on top of the hill. So this is a way to illustrate how logical reasoning works, how rational inference works. And what this means is, we need the premises to come from outside the scope of anumana or logic. It's either by observation, or somebody has given you a prior knowledge about a system, how it works, and then based on that you arrive at a posterior conclusion. So this is how the system of rationality works. And in any such system, the beliefs that you begin with are the axioms, which are taken to be unquestioned truths. And when we take these axioms and we try to explain all the truths about the system that follow from these axioms, there is one thing or the other that we will lack, which is either consistency or completeness. So this is what Gödel had showed. And because of this, we cannot hope that science will have all the premises that is needed to consistently and completely explain nature. Because science, in a sense, is nothing but the study of natural phenomenon or nature. So now, this is a very important point which illustrates that just by observation and inference alone, one cannot arrive at the complete truth. Because the system, it lends itself for consistency. That's how the process of argumentation works. But it can't be complete. And therefore, scientific validity doesn't necessarily imply that something is true in the absolute sense. And what we can take scientific conclusions as, it is a working explanation of natural phenomenon. We don't necessarily know whether that explanation is correct, but it does explain. So we can take it as some approximation of how nature works. And there is also another limitation here. This is called the observer effect. Whenever you try to observe a system, the system changes its state. Just like, how many of you have filled air in your car tires? Most of you would have. So the moment you use the pressure gauge to look at the reading, that itself takes away some air from the system. You can never get the exact reading, but you can get an approximate reading. So approximately correct reading in this case, because it's only minimal. But this serves as an important point or important example to show what the observer effect is. When you observe a system, the system is changing its state. So you can never really observe a system as it is. So that's what the observer effect is. And by these arguments, we can understand that there is a limitation of argumentation itself in the quest for the truth. And argumentation doesn't stand on its own either. It needs some priors to work with, and those priors come from observations for modern science, or it can also come from something else, which is Shabda. We'll take a look at it in a moment. But then, whether is rationality also natural? Well, studies have shown that humans are not necessarily rational, but they have a capacity for reason. So cognitive biases, those who are familiar with psychology, know that they are intrinsic to human perception and decision making. And there are studies which show that a perfectly rational agent would make decisions that differ in most cases from what humans make. So that is why for those who are into the area, you will know that perfectly rational way of modeling agents or classical game theory doesn't do justice in modeling human behavior. Therefore, we need behavioral psychology. And what it goes to show is that humans are not necessarily rational beings. So we all have our biases and we work through them. And of course, we strive so that the biases are not getting in the way of our ability to progress toward knowledge or toward the path of like absolute truth. But we do have biases. So therefore, it's natural. And it's natural to not be a machine. So next, so we saw two types of proof. One is pratyaksha and other is anumana. Now we have also seen that they are both individually and collectively limited in revealing to us the unchangeable or the absolute truth. Then what is the hope? Well, the hope is the absolute truth can be perceived, but after removing one's conditionings. So this Krishna mentions about this in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitramidam Uttamam Pratyakshavāgamyam dharmyam susukham kartum avyayam. He says that this is Pratyakshavāgamyam dharmyam. So this is, you can see Pratyaksha, you can actually see what is happening when in the absolute realm. But this Pratyaksha can only come through after the conditionings of perception are removed. Conditionings that lead to imperfect perception are removed. And those whose conditionings are removed, their perception becomes Shabda Pramana. So Shabda is nothing but the sages or the different self-realized souls have seen the absolute truth. So they are described as drashta, or they are the ones who have seen it. And then they have given in the form of the Vedic mantras. They have, through Shruti or through listening, and then eventually Vyasadeva documented them. We have in the form of Ganesha documented them at the behest of Vyasadeva. And so we have them in written form now. Therefore, once the purification or the process of self-realization is complete, one can realize or have a pratyaksha darshana of the absolute truth. Therefore, tattva darshana is, they achieve tattva darshana. So this also indicated in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto of Bhagavatam. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogatah bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukto sangasya jayate. Mukta sangasya jayate. So when the mind, the conditioning of the mind is completely removed and the senses are all purified, then one can actually get bhagavad tattva vijnanam, the knowledge about the absolute truth. And so that is the liberated state at which someone can perceive the absolute truth directly. But until then, the perception is conditioned. We wouldn't know what color is even a dress or some optical illusion phenomena that can easily fool the senses and or the mind. So this is why we can't entirely rely on pratyaksha at a stage when the senses are imperfect. So, and at the same time, we cannot rely on anumana or logic as a complete means toward knowledge. But does that mean both of them are not useful? Absolutely not. So we need all of these pramanas to be able to navigate toward the absolute truth. But the primary pramana would be Shabda, or the word of the realized. And how does then Anumana or the rationality help? So logic is actually a tool. It's a tool that helps us derive valid conclusions from valid premises. So logic is therefore a tool, or rational argumentation is a tool that helps us grasp or contextualize the different the connection between the premise and the conclusion. So this is also explained in Vaishnava Tantra. Purva paranurodhena konvo artabhimato bhavet ityadam mohanam tarka shushka tarkam tu vrarchayet. So what it means is purva and apara. So what is there, the statements of the Shabda, what is there previously explained, and the ones that are going to be explained later. There are meanings to all of them. And how does the tarka, or the argumentation help? Is it helps us contextualize how the prior statements are leading to the posterior statements. And that way the uhanam or is hypothesization. So when I don't know if that's a word, but you understand when we do even in science, we do something called hypothesis testing. First you formulate a hypothesis based on what you think will explain the data, and then you see whether or not the data supports your hypothesis or not. And Uhanam is standing precisely for that part of it. You have data, or you have the, in this case, in the case of science, you are taking data as the pratyaksha praman, the empirical observations. In the study of Shastra, we take data to be the statements of the scripture. So the statements of the scripture, Shabda becomes the premise. And you have Shabda like Purva, meaning before, and Para. Also you have later. You have Shastric statements before as well as later. And then we contextualize them through Tarka. So that is considered a valid Tarka. And Shushka Tarka or invalid Tarka is that which doesn't try to make the or try to make sense of the previous and the next statements. So Shastra Pramana or Shabda Pramana, because it's the words of the realized, it is understood to be free from faults of perception. And therefore the Shastra is given such high significance in the Vedic culture. In the Vedic tradition, the Shastra is accepted without question for this reason, that it is free from faults, because it's the words of the realized. And the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, Yasya Nishvasito Vedo. So the Vedas are also the breath of the Supreme Lord. So that is so the Vedas are therefore sacred, that they are free from any kinds of faults that can be arising through sense perception. And they are apaursheya, meaning they are not due to like conditioned beings. And even actually the sages, they are not generating something from their own minds. They are observing, and then they are giving us those observations. So we apply logic so that we understand. That is our way of grasping the Sat, or that becomes our Satya. So that is how we logic serves as a valid tool to analyze what the Shastra is saying. And therefore such logic is to be or such reasoning is to be accepted. This is what it's quoted in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as well. And now we discussed about the different pramanas. Just to summarize before we go into the next phase of it. So we saw that faith requires a subject who has the faith, and requires an object in which the faith is reposed. And the faith has its own nature. We'll also see what that means in a bit. Now, the object of faith has to be based in the truth for that faith to be called Shraddha. Shraddha meaning the reality, and Dha means holding. So one is holding a belief about reality, or one is possessing a part of the truth. That is Shraddha. And now what is truth? For that we went into the different Pramanas. We saw Pratyaksha Pramana, that by observation we get some information. That information may be valid or may not be valid. We saw the relativity of perception through the dress, and we also saw the optical illusion of the that pattern that we saw. So that way we know what is the limitation of Pratyaksha Pramana. And for Anumana we saw that we cannot have an axiomatic system, a perfectly rational system that can be consistent and complete at the same time. And therefore logic is also not helping us completely to know the absolute truth. Furthermore, logic not only cannot be consistent, complete at the same time, but it also requires premises to work with, and these valid premises have to come from either Pratyaksha, meaning observation, or Shabda, meaning the scripture. So we see that in the case of modern science, the observations form the premise for rational argumentation, and in the case of the Shastras, we see that the Shastric statements form the premise for rational argumentation. That way we found that logic is an effective tool to help us reconcile our observations, and if the observations are only based on the conditioned senses, then such a system, just like the modern scientific method, cannot lead us to the absolute truth, but it will keep leading us to refinement of theories over time. But they will never attain a so-called steady state, because there will always be new data that can be there that can change the theory, or logic itself is not a viable tool if it is only used with fallible data. And in the case of Shastra Pramana, the statements of the Shastra serve as the basis or the premise, and then logic helps us to contextualize those statements, and that way help us understand what is the truth value behind the statements. Now this is how the Pramanas, the proofs of truth, and the object of Shraddha, the truth, are connected. Now we also noted that Shraddha or faith is actually never optional. All of us have faith. Everybody who is born on the planet, everybody has faith. And it's just a matter of where is the faith being reposed. Is it reposed only on rationality and empirical observation, or is it reposed on those who have transcended material conditionings, and how do we identify such beings, and or is the faith reposed on my own imagination? So all of these are where the differences lie on what the object of faith is. But faith in itself is never optional. And now next we'll see why is faith, or Shraddha, meaning faith in reality, necessary. So these are some statements from the scriptures which show both by positive statements as well as negative statements of why faith is necessary. So Krishna says in the 4th chapter, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatpara samyatendriha jnanam labdhva param shantim achirena adhigacchati. So he says that only by Shraddha one can actually get knowledge. Let's say you are practicing scientists or engineers, and you don't believe the process of taking readings or process of validating at all. You don't have faith in any of those things. Therefore, you can never get knowledge about the system that you are trying to analyze. So even in the material sphere or in the spiritual sphere, Shraddha is absolutely necessary. And Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. and by such Shraddha, one will get jnana in the field they are trying to get knowledge about. And this Shraddha is also very sacred. Why it is sacred? Because this Shraddha, we will see that it leads to bhava, or the way we feel about things. And Krishna says that feeling is absolutely important because it serves as the starting point for the next life. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. He says that the kind of internal state, the bhava one develops toward the end of one's life, is what is continued in the next life. Therefore, and we will see how Shraddha and bhava are related. This is there in Bhagavatam. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana katha tajjoshanadashvapavarga vartmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramishati. So he says that how by hearing about the katha of the absolute truth, one can, in the order of Shraddha, Ratir and Bhakti, cultivate their internal state. Tajjoshanad is cultivating that knowledge or cultivating that state. Ashvapavarga Vartmani, they are immediately redirected to the path of spiritual life. And what happens is Shraddha, Ratir, Bhaktir Anukramishati. So this Rati is also the bhava the person is feeling. So first Shraddha comes, Shraddha leads to Rati, and Rati eventually leads to the Bhakti that is described here is Prema. We will see the sequence, but basically Shraddha is at the very core of what we are going to become in our future. When we are children, our parents put a certain type of Shraddha in our head. They say that, you study well or you do something. So that is the kind of samskaras or the impressions that our impressionable mind is taking. And our faith evolves according to that environment. And that lays the foundation for what we will become eventually in our life. And similarly, the way we are taking our association and what thoughts we are associating, what we are meditating upon, what is the kind of faith that we are forming within ourselves about which no one else knows, that faith is going to be the starting point for what we become in our next life, or after leaving this body. And even in this body we can see how that process works. And so this is the necessity for having faith, and it's also demonstrated by negative statements as well. We see that Ajnascha Shraddhadhanascha Samshayatma Vinashyati. So this is, I think I combined only like the first and third padas here. So basically, without having Shraddha, the person is always only doubting. Only doubting. See, doubt is helpful, but if there is only doubt, then there is a problem. Such a person cannot feel stable anywhere. They will always be skeptical and they will feel restless. So such a person, Krishna says, Vinashyati, the person gets destroyed, and there is no sukha for them. They don't feel at ease at all in their life. Therefore, Shraddha is important. And but then we also saw that Shraddha is not optional. So how does it work? So Shraddha in the path that you are following, that is what is important. So if your Shraddha is placed elsewhere and the path that you are following is something else, then that's not going to help. Therefore, we have to try to realign our life in such a way that what we want to do and what we are doing, they both are aligned. And that is when we can put effort from our heart into following the process that we subscribe to. And the other place Krishna mentions is Ashraddhaya hutam daptam tapastaptam kritan chayat asat ityuchate partha nachatat pretya no iha. He says, without Shraddha, any sacrifice we undertake, any charity we give, or any tapasya we perform, the result of that is asat. It is not sat. Now, asat can be understood as false in a sense, or it can be understood as temporary. And either way, asat ityuchate partha nachatat pretya noya. It doesn't benefit the person either in this life or in the next. So this is what Krishna is saying. And other place Krishna says is ashraddhadhana purusha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapya mam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. So he says that without Shraddha, one who takes to this path of spiritual advancement will never attain the goal. Here Mam refers to Krishna here. So he is the goal. So one will never attain Krishna if there is no Shraddha. And they will return to the path of Mrityu Samsara Vartmani, this part of the mortal world. So they will return to the path of the mortal world, not part. So therefore, Shraddha is extremely important. And we have 10 minutes, so let me quickly try to wind up in 5 minutes so that we can have time for questions. So how does Shraddha arise? This is a very important question. We saw that Shraddha is not optional on one sense. So we have Shraddha or faith in something or the other. But then when we say how does Shraddha arise, it means how does Shraddha in taking up to spiritual path arise. So this is the verse that satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana katha tat joshana dashvapavargavartmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramishyati. So in the association of sata or sat sangha, when we say sat, there it is referring to those who are trying to advance in spiritual life. Satam prasangan. Prasangan is actually sangha is association, sat sangha. Prasangha is advanced association, which means we actually intently try to listen and try to understand what this is all about. Mama virya samvido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana katha. So about the topics related to the glories of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Hrit karna rasayana katha. It's like a nectar to what? To the hrid, heart, as well as karna, ear. And that is the power of the katha. Tad joshanad ashvapavargavartmani. By listening to that and by developing that inclination to listen, then the person is redirected to a spiritual path. Shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramishati. Then the person develops Shraddha, Rati and Bhakti in that order. So jata Shraddha mat kathasu nirvinna sarva karmasu veda dukkhatmakan kaman parityage api anishvara. This is actually two verses where Krishna is mentioning that how by listening to his katha, the transcendental signs, one even though one is conditioned, they know that it's all temporary and they are completely resolute in their purpose. Dhrita nishchaya. And such a person will cross over and attain Krishna's lotus feet, cross over the ocean of material existence. And other important point is how does Shraddha arise? Actually, Shraddha arises when we take the sankalpa sincerely and seek for blessings. Then Krishna says he gives Shraddha as well. Where does he say this? He says this in Bhagavad Gita. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta shraddhayarchitum icchati tasya tasya chalam shraddha tameva vidadamyaham. Krishna says, yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta shraddhayarchitum icchati. Whichever form one desires to worship with faith. So icchati is the word. We have a sincere desire. And then what Krishna does? Tasya tasya achalam shraddha tameva vidadamyaham. He says that I exactly give the shraddha that they are looking for. So Krishna, therefore, it's very important to know where our innermost heartfelt desires are. Because those are the ones that the person really wants. The Paramatma, Krishna, he guides from within the heart of bestowing the faith, giving the strength to the person to make progress along that path. Therefore, it's important to know where our heart lies, what we are actually desiring in life, because that is exactly how the path is going to be carved for us. Now, this is probably the last slide, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, anyway, I'll quickly finish this. So, we saw that who is possessing the faith is Sattva Anurupa. So, the Sattva is the Antakarana. It is referring to the Chitta and Buddhi according to Sridhar Swami. And Sattva is that internal organ that hosts the faith. And the object of faith can be different aspects of reality. Then it is called Shraddha. If the object of faith is one's own imagination, that can be called Vishwasa but not Shraddha. For Shraddha, the object has to be associated with Sat or reality. And now, according to the gunas, which color pretty much everything in this material creation, the Antakarana or the internal organ, Chitta, Manas, Buddhi, Ahankar, they get colored by these gunas, Sattva, Rajas or Tamas. And accordingly, they take different objects of faith. So, for those whose internal apparatus, the Antakaranas, are colored by Sattva Guna, their faith is reposed in spirituality. Just like, all of you are interested in spiritual topics. So when the faith is colored by Sattva Guna, one is interested in learning about spiritual topics. When the faith is colored by Rajoguna, one becomes interested in just working. So they want to be just workaholics because their faith dictates that just by working hard you will achieve things. And that's in fact the only way to achieve things. And when the internal apparatus or the Antakarana is colored by Tamas, the person thinks adharma to be dharma and dharma to be adharma. So basically there is chaos because the person thinks something is good but it turns out it is not, and vice versa. So this is what Bhagavatam says. We saw that Krishna mentioned about 3 types of faith in Bhagavad Gita, but that faith is Trivida Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja. That is for the faith that is arising from Swabhava. But here there are 4 types of faith that is mentioned because one of them is not necessarily arising from Swabhava. It is coming from elsewhere. So Satviki Adhyatmiki Shraddha Karma Shraddha tu Rajasi Tamasya Dharmeya Shraddha Matsevayam tu Nirguna. So here the translation is also there. Faith directed towards spiritual life, Adhyatmiki, is in the mode of goodness, Satviki. Faith rooted in fruitive work, Karma Shraddha, is in the mode of passion, Rajasi. Faith residing in irreligious activities, Adharma, is in the mode of ignorance, Tamasi. But faith in my devotional service, Mat Sevayam, is purely transcendental, Nirguna. Nirguna is, it is not within the gunas. So if you are offering a flower, if you are offering water, if you are offering tulasi leaf, if you are offering to Krishna, if you are doing any bhakti activity in service, Mat Sevayam, it is actually Krishna himself speaking in the Bhagavatam. So he is saying, in my service, in Krishna's service, anything that is being done, having that kind of faith that I am doing this for Krishna, is for his service. So that kind of a faith is actually transcendental. It does not bind one because one is not having a motive for themselves at all. It is anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam anukulyena Krishna anushilanam bhaktiruttamam. So the bhakti is that where the person is not selfish about themselves. They are actually trying to please Krishna and their devotees. That should be the consciousness. And in that state of consciousness where there is no abhilasha for their own sense gratification, then that is uttama bhakti, without any tinge of jnana karmana to advance oneself materially. So that is uttama bhakti. And the whole process of bhakti is nothing but it's a spiritual evolution of faith. This is a very strong statement to make, but there is proof for this. Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha To Bhajana Kriya Tato Anartha Nivritti Syat Tato Nishtha Ruchistata atha saktistato bhavas tatah premabhidanchati sadhakanamayam premna pradurbhave bhavet krama. So adau shraddha, initially there is some faith. We all have faith in something or the other. But to come to a satsang, the person has to have some faith that maybe this is beneficial for me. Maybe I need some peace. Maybe I need something, more in my life than just, regular things. So that is the Ado Shraddha, beginning faith one has. And then one comes into the association of devotees, from where they start bhajana kriya, like we are going to have kirtan now. And then that will slowly purify the internals of the person, because the name that we associated with the nama and the process that we are following bhakti, they are immensely potent to purify the person and purify them from the anarthas. And then the person becomes firmly established. That is called nishtha. And the quotation below is from Chandogya Upanishad, which says, nishtha is the way one can know that the person actually has faith. So, anyway, right. So, and from that point on is where ruchi develops, or there is a taste for the activities of bhakti. And from there, asakti develops, that you actually can't live without doing bhakti. And then from there, bhava develops. We saw how shraddha leads to bhava. This is the pramana for that. So from bhava, prema develops. And this is the process how sadhana bhakti works. So krama, in a sequence, this is how the person eventually grows to the stature of unconditional faith, which is called prema, as we saw in the layout slide. So initially we have faith, and slowly our experiences with the process of spiritual sadhana helps us to develop prema, that intense longing or attachment to the absolute truth, Sri Krishna. And today is a very special day as well. It is the disappearance day of two of the prominent acharyas of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. So one is Raghunandan Thakur, and I think we are running out of time. So there are beautiful pastimes on how they exemplify innocent faith, and also about Vamshidas Babaji. So maybe, Prabhuji, can I take 2 minutes? Ramanusaka Prabhuji. 2 minutes? Okay, thank you. Because this is, I feel, very important for... yes. Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. So in case of Raghunandan Thakur, so this is a devotee who, when he was a little boy, his father told him that, he's at a very small age, so his father said, now you go and offer bhoga to Krishna. So Raghunandan said, okay, I will take the plate, Naivedya bhoga plate, I will go and keep, and then Krishna will come and eat. And then his father's name is Mukunda, he was a physician. And then after some time he saw, okay, plate is there only, Krishna is there only, he didn't eat anything. So then he started crying, Krishna, please eat. If you don't eat, my father will scold me. He told me to offer to you. So he cried with so much of bhava that actually Krishna came. It is said that Krishna came and he ate. And then the plate was empty. And then his father asked, where is the prasadam? I gave you for offering, give me the prasadam. He said, Krishna ate. What do you mean Krishna ate? We offer so that Krishna gives prasadam and we can eat. And then he said, no, Krishna only ate. Then his father is like, okay, how about this? You give this laddu to Krishna. So he said, okay, I will give laddu. And then Mukunda, the father of Raghunandan, he went to a corner and he hid. And from there he was seeing whether his son, what he was saying is true or not. So it is mentioned that Krishna took half of the laddu and remaining half he kept. And then his son mentions that Krishna actually had a lot of bhoga before, so he only took half of the laddu now. So he saw the father, actually it's mentioned, he started crying, seeing the devotion of his son. And these devotees are contemporaries to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is standing there. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually, after this incident, called Mukunda and asked, "Is Raghunandan your father or son?" Then it is mentioned that the Mukunda mentioned that actually he is my father. Why is my father? Because he taught me what it means to have pure faith for Krishna. So in that way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that because he gave faith, the person becomes like a guru or a father. So this is one of the beautiful pastimes of Raghunandan Thakur that shows how innocent faith is extremely important when we approach the deities, when we approach Krishna. And the other is of Vamshidas Babaji. So Vamshidas Babaji is a contemporary of the guru of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. And he exemplified complete absorption in Vatsalya Bhav. I'll quickly mention like a few things. So once he had so much bhava toward his deities. So he had Bal Gopal, and Radha Krishna and Gaurnitai deities, 3 sets of deities. So once he prepared sweet rice for Bal Gopal, and so he stayed in Bengal, and he prepared the sweet rice, and then he was in so much of anger that he actually threw the sweet rice instead of offering to Gopal. And then the devotees, they were bewildered. What is happening? He said Gopal went to Radha Govinda and he had good there, or jaggery. And so how did he do that without asking me like that? So he offered that sweet rice. He didn't offer that sweet rice. And then it is said that some devotees wrote to Vrindavan, Radha Govinda temple, on that particular day and time, what did they offer? The reply came, they offered good. So Babaji knew what was happening in Krishna's Leela because of his intense absorption. And then it is also mentioned that he would keep his doors always open. Sometimes the thieves would come and steal. And then when someone asked, he used to tell them that if he himself is not taking care of his home, what will I do? Like that. And then, so he always saw that the home that he was in is actually never his home, but actually the home of his deities. So that's the state at which he was. And once it so happened that because stealing used to happen, he left his home doors open. So somebody gifted a gold chain to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, his Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then he offered it to him. But then there was a thief who stole that. And after that, when he came back from begging, because that's how the Babajis would like accept like their prasad and everything. So then he came back and he saw the gold chain was not there. Immediately it is mentioned that he asked, Gauranga, whom did you give it to? So then he spoke to the deities. The deity said, this is the person. So he went to a person's home and it happened to be the thief. So he asked the thief that you took the gold chain from Gauranga, you would have to give it back. And the person became very angry and he kicked him, or he threw him. That Babaji's leg broke. And it is mentioned that he did not retaliate. He just came back. And then after that it is mentioned the person who did that, the thief, one by one in his family, everybody died. So Babaji, during his old age, it is mentioned that in his so once when he became very sick physically, Gauranga mentioned to him that you have taken alms for so long, now you stay home, let me go and get the food for you. And so Babaji was laughing to his servant who was there, recollecting what Gauranga said, and immediately he became very grave. He took a stick and in anger he said, Gauranga, I will break your legs if you leave the home. So that was the level of attachment he had to his deities. And then once Jagannath Rath Yatra was happening and Jagannath's cart came till his home, like where he was staying, and it would not move after everybody tried to push the cart. And then when Babaji came, he had a heartfelt conversation with Jagannath, and after that it is mentioned the cart immediately moved easily without effort. And when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj held him at a very high esteem, that he would send his disciples to serve him and request his Mahaprasad. And when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj came to visit Babaji, Vamsidas Babaji Maharaj, he said, oh, the Manjari has come. That means Radharani will be coming shortly. So this is the amount of absorption that he had. There are many other pastimes as well. But what we are trying to illustrate by this is one should have faith, and one should protect the faith. Slowly the faith will nurture into love or prema for Krishna. That is the path of bhakti. Bhakti is actually the yoga of divine love or prema. And this is how prema slowly is attained from Shraddha. Therefore Shraddha is extremely important. And that is the qualification to practice bhakti actually. So thank you all for tolerating and attending, and sorry I took more time. But if there are any questions, we can take it up later. Thank you very much. Please forgive if I spoke anything that is not appropriate. Hare Krishna. Thank you. We will have the Aarti now. Shiva Jayo Jayo Gora Chandir Arati Kashobha Shiva Jayo Jayo Gora Chandir Arati Kashobha Janavi Tatavani Jagamanalobha Janavi Tatavani Jagamanalobha Gaurangera Ratika Shobha Jagajanamana Lobha Gaurangera Ratika Shobha Jagajanamana Lobha Ratika Shobha Jagajanamana Jagajanamana Lobha Jagajanamana Lobha Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Shati Ninitan Vami Gadadhara Nikate Advaita Shri Vasa Chhatradhara Boshi Achindoratan Ratna Simhasane Sita Boshi Arati Kohina Brahma Adi Devadani Nara Hari Adi Kori Samara Dhula Jaya Mukunda Vasi Ghoshadivaya Santa Baje Ghanta Baje Baje Karatala Madhura Vedanga Baje Paramarasala Santa Baje Ghanta Baje Madhur 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 Baje Shankha Baje Ghanta Baje Madhur 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 Baje Babaho Koti Chandra Dini Vachana Ujjvala Mala Deshe Mala Mala Pare Jhala Mala Shiva Sukhana Gada Preme Gada Gada Bhakati Vinoda Dekhe Gaurara Sampada Shiva Jaya Jaya Gauragade Arati Kashoba Shiva Jaya Jagamanalobha Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namah. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Jaya Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Jayo Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Nara Hari, Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Nara Hari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya. Nitai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol. Nitai Gora Hari Bol. श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्री श्री गौरारती की जय। ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमती सुरेंद्र सभय चरणारिंद भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन बीबीटी संस्थापक आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमती सुरेंद्र भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। रामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहिए श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंड श्री गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। अयोध्यापुरी धाम की जय। गंगामयी यमुनामयी की जय। भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। कलियुग पावन श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। हिताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। नमस्ते नरसिंहाय नमस्ते हिरण्यकशिपूर्वकः तिलकङ्कणखालये हितो नृसिंह परतो नृसिंह यतो यतो यामि ततो नृसिंह नृसिंह हृदये नृसिंह नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये तव करकमलवरे नखा अद्भुतशृङ्गा दलित हिरण्यकशिपो तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे ललिता हिरण्यकशिपो तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय नर हरि लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय नर हरि जय जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय, उत्तराज प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। You wanted to announce?
There is no announcement. Yeah. Hare Krishna, we thank Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu for bringing us Krishna Katha today and also leading us into Narasimhadev prayers. Now we will go into the Prasadam prayers.
शरीरा विद्याजाल जोड़ेन्द्रिय ताहे काल पहले विषय सागरे तार मध्ये जीवायते लोभो मोह सुदुर्मते ताके जेता कठिन संसारे कृष्ण बड़ो दयावान तोरी बारे दिवा जाए स्वप्रसादन दिलो भाई संयम नामित पाओ राधा कृष्ण गुण गाओ प्रेमेड़ा को श्री चैतन्य निताय प्रेमेड़ा को श्री चैतन्य निताय महाप्रसादे गोविंदे नमः ब्राह्मण वैष्णवे स्वल्प पुण्यव्रतं राजन् विश्वासो निकायते प्रसादे सर्व दुःखानां हानिरस्योपजायते प्रसन्नचेता श्रेयसो बुद्धिपर्यावतिष्ठते भगवत् श्री महाप्रसादं की जय। Please have prasadam outside. The prasadam will be served outside. Yeah. Thank you, Hare Krishna.